Are you an artist, creator or maker and you love to make and create, but you feel stuck and you're unsure what next steps to take? Well, all is not lost. As an art business coach, I can help you get more clarity and help you set up a plan for your next steps so that you can start to see results in your art career. A one-on-one coaching session is a powerful way to help you move forward on your artist journey. Whether you need help thinking through your art website, setting up an art routine, or organizing your first exhibition, a personal coaching session will help you take those next steps. You can DM me on @SonjaSmallHere or head over to my website to find out more. I know I would love to connect with you.
The role of artists is, in my opinion, much greater than many people realize. In my view, art is not only for experience, but it returns daily in everyone's lives. Everything around us is designed by an artist in one or another way. If you look at a car, if you look at a chair, all the lines which is actually came out of somebody's mind. So that's why I think it's very important.
My name is Sonja SmallHere. I'm an artist, an art coach, and a course creator. When I graduated from the Art Academy, I had learned how to paint and how to draw, but I had no idea how to earn a living with my creativity. I was not prepared for the life as a working artist. This often left me quite frustrated, sometimes on the verge of calling it quits, throwing away my brushes and giving it all up. But I'm so glad I didn't. After many failed attempts and valuable lessons learned, I've discovered ways to turn my creative dream of being a working artist into a reality, now giving me the freedom to live the life I love. I created the Help I'm Artist podcast because no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're just starting out or maybe you've been a working artist for a while, you too can take steps to turn your creative passions into a meaningful, sustainable profession. The Help I'm Artist podcast is filled with fresh inspiration, step-by-step practical insights, and interviews with artists who are experts in their field. If you're a smart artist or one in the making who is looking for new and exciting ways to get your art out of your studio and into the hands and hearts of an audience that's appreciative and willing to pay its worth, then you're in the right place. Happy listening. When his parents celebrated their wedding anniversary, Ramon surprised them with a special gift. He turned a block of plaster into his very first piece of sculpture. He loved sculpting so much, he simply kept making and creating. After being rejected by the Art Academy, Ramon found his own way and now tests the limits of his materials as a full-time working artist in his studio in the Netherlands, where he makes personalized sculptures for private and business commissions both locally and around the globe. In this episode, award-winning Dutch sculptor Ramon Schalkx shares more about his artist story and what motivates him to make his art. This episode is filled to the brim with practical tips and valuable insights into how artists can successfully win and complete art commissions. Here's our conversation. Well, Ramon, welcome to the Help I'm Artist podcast. I'm just so happy and excited that you are my guest to talk all about art and art business. And I'd love for you to just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What are you doing? Where are you living?
Well, thank you, Sonja, for having me on this podcast. Really an honor. My name is Ramon, Ramon Schalkx. I live in the Netherlands. I'm married for 7 years to Christine. We have 2 kids, Filine, she's 9, and Wouter, he's 7. We live in a little town in the middle of the Netherlands, which is called Bussum, which is near Amsterdam, of course, like everything in the Netherlands. But it's also near Baarn, which is next to you.
Yay! That's
Yay! Well, I'm a self-taught sculptor. I just started sculpting and for about 18 years now.
A self-taught sculptor.
Yes.
That sounds very, very interesting.
It is. Yeah.
Tell me about
how did you always want to be a sculptor? How did that come about?
Well, I'm creating all my life. So when I was a really young little Ramon, I started with clay, and I was always drawing, but always drawing in 3D. So I always wanted to sculpt, but people around me always said, "Well, it's too difficult. You shouldn't be doing that." But if you keep listening to that, you won't get anywhere. So my parents were married for 25 years, and I wanted to make there something special. I was with my brother who was renovating his house, and he had these building blocks, and I saw how easy it was to sculpt these blocks. So I took one block with me. I bought 3 chisels, and I sat on my room and started sculpting. That's how it started. And that's like 18 years ago. And after a half year, I was working in soapstone. And then I discovered that I could sculpt pretty well. I had my first exhibition. And in that same half year, I also won the Schalkx, which is an art prize in this area for young art talent.
Whoa, Doug, just to hold on a minute. You are self-taught, something that you started doing is actually like a project for your parents in your room with
Yes.
a piece of material, chiseling away. And that from there, you just kept making, or how did that make that bridge between winning an art prize and being a sculptor? What did you do to prepare yourself? Did you just look at a lot of art, or
No, I just started. I just went from my room into the barn, and I put down a stone, and I just started sculpting. And and I didn't know, it was just for myself, but the reactions of people were amazing. And so somebody asked me if I want to join an exhibition, which was really small at church, but the reactions there were like people coming to me and, well, why is there no prize with your sculptures, and do you want to sell it? And I was just like, I don't know, I just sculpt. And then I saw this message in the local newspaper of this prize, which or this competition, which was for young artists in the neighborhood. And then I just thought, okay, well, give it a chance. And I sent my pictures to them. And well, a few weeks later, I won the public prize.
So you have a natural affinity to 3D thinking. That's just how your brain works. It's something that's a gift and a talent that you have.
Yeah.
And you sort of tuned into that and just got going with it and started making sculptures.
Art. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Is it something that you went full time? You did it as a livelihood? Did you make it a business model straight away, or was there a process?
No, there was a process. Actually, I was in school at that moment studying commercial economics, which is completely different. It was all in the last half year of my study when this all happened. 4 years before that, they rejected me at art school in Utrecht somehow, which was actually a very good thing because my artistic brain is not molded by the school. So that's how it happened. And when I got my diploma for the school for the commercial economics, at the same day I also won the prize for a young talent in sculpting. So that was a really strange but really rich to have these choices. I decided to follow my school. Of course, there are many people who also say, well, art, artist, a difficult thing, and you did your school, and all that sort of things. And well, they all mean it very well, but it's not really what you should say to someone who has this talent, actually. So I followed my school, and I worked for 15 years in a corporate business in the Netherlands in sales and marketing. And besides that, I was always sculpting. I was always making sculptures and making assignments. I don't know, I think I made like 50 sculptures, which are all over the world now. So
you combined that with a full-time job. So is it something you did in the weekends or in the evenings that you did as relaxation and for fun, and then also on commission?
Yeah, for me, it was like going to a gym or playing tennis, but I get paid for it instead of paying for it. And there were a lot of people who were telling me, well, why aren't you going to take it seriously and just go professional? You're so good and you're this and that. But I didn't have the guts to do it. And it was a little bit scary, of course. I had a very good job, nice house, great income, beautiful car, of course. Just all these things were in place. So I just had to make this decision somewhere, sometime. So I did last year.
Tell us about that. That really is a difficult move. I know a lot of artists that listen to this podcast have day jobs or work part-time in other professions and want to make that step. That's like their biggest dream. They want to be a full-time working artist. Tell us a little bit about the process, how you prepared yourself to go and make this your profession.
First of all, I had to make a shift in my mindset because I just had to speak out. I'm an artist. I make beautiful work and my work matters. And I had to get rid of all the many well-meant comments that it would be difficult and an uncertainty of your income. And then at the end of 2019, I got the opportunity to leave the company with certain agreements. So I could give myself like 1.5 years of starting up my own business. I sorted out some things that I had to have in place for myself to be brave enough to take this step. And when that was in place, then I just went for it. So February 2020, I started. And from that moment, it took me like half a year to get everything organized. Because I was sculpting for a long time, I already had my own studio. I already have my machines and materials so that I didn't have to invest in that. But the thing that I had to do was fixing the basics. So administration, finance, marketing, website. And that took me about half a year.
So those are really foundational and pillars, to support your creative gift. And of course, you have this wonderful history with marketing and sales, which is also not a bad thing. If
No, not at all.
Going into this profession, can you tell us how the work that you've done in the marketing and in the sales has helped you set up this foundation?
I have a big advantage with my 15 years of sales and marketing experience. I would love to give it to a more artists because it's not something you get from your education, and it helps me a lot. It's like a second nature for me. In everything I do, I look at my company from an artistic as well as a business perspective. When I'm setting up my website, making a logo, pricing, marketing, everything. And also when I'm working on an assignment, I notice that I apply my sales and marketing knowledge and experience unconsciously. It's in my body.
DNA.
And that's a good thing because there's nothing wrong with thinking about sales and marketing as an artist. That's what most of the customers are used to with everything they buy. So why shouldn't it be there for your art? It makes them even happy if you show them your art, and it makes them even happy if you tell about it. So don't be waiting in your working place. Nobody will notice you. Nobody will come around.
Do you have like tips that you can give from all your experiences in marketing and sales to artists that are wanting to, connect with their audiences more effectively? What could they put into place? What have you put into place that has put you in this position to earn a living with your art? If
you look at assignments, I make a lot of assignments, I noticed somehow. If you look at assignments, and if I look at my 15 years of marketing and sales experience, I can point out like 4 steps, 4 important things that you have to have in place and that you can do or have to do make successful assignments. First of all is finding a customer and making them enthusiastic. Know that your customers are everywhere. You have no idea about how big your own group of people around you is who want to buy or who know people who want to buy your art. Always be aware that you have your visibility with you with photos or on your mobile, and that you have a clear story about the possibilities and the method you are working, and always have some stories and experiences which will amaze people. What you do is very special, and not very much people do it. So that's the first one. The second one is make it clear what the possibilities are. but also be very clear about what the limits are. It shouldn't disrupt your artistic flow or something. You always stick to your artistic interpretation, but you also have to know in your head what the budget must be for and the planning, the materials, and also help the customer make decisions so that you have a clear view of what you want to earn in a commission. And you can even ask the customer what the budget is. So if they say, well, I want to have this sculpture or that painting, and my budget is like 150 euros, then you say, well, that's impossible. That's not realistic. But if they say, well, my budget is like 3,000 euros, then you can work with that money and see what the possibilities are, because you know how long it will take to make an artwork, and you know what the cost of the materials are, and you know what you want to earn.
This is something that you're really going through from your own experiences, taking them through the whole process in a commission.
Yeah. I know now that I'm doing this on a naturally, unconsciously way. It's like 15 years of this sales and marketing experience, which I take with me. Yeah, it's always around me somehow. So the third step is taking customers into the process. That's what I always experience as a very important thing to do to get your customers engaged. Invite them to your studios sometimes. So when you start, or when you during the process, or at the ending of the process, but also by selecting the materials. So I will take them to the place where I can buy my stones or marble, or take them to the foundry to do the patina, so the coloring of the bronze. Don't be afraid of input of the customers during the process, as long as it doesn't affect your artistic flow. So that's why it's very important that you make clear for yourself and for the customers what the limits are. But my experience is that it will always improve the final result. They will get very attached to it because they saw the whole process. They have seen what they want. The final step will be the best step, actually. It's the unveiling of the artwork, the follow-up process. So always provide a good unveiling. You made something special, and it is a very big thing in the life of a customer to get an artwork for them, made by them, which is so personal. Always leave more, like a certificate or cards or a photo booklet. I always make a photo booklet of the whole process of the making of the sculpture. It's not only nice for the customer because they think, well, wow, I get something extra, but they will also show it to their friends, their family, people around them, because they are proud of it and because they're very happy with it. You took them on a trip, on a journey of making the beautiful sculpture or painting for them. So there will be your biggest ambassadors. Sooner or later, there will be somebody else who says, well, that's a really cool story. I want to have the same journey. I want to do the same thing with this artist. So give me his number, give me his website.
Well, it sounds like a really personal process, Ramon, that you really go on that journey, on that process with your clients.
Yeah.
It's not just here, this is what it could look like, and come back in 6 weeks, I'll have it finished.
Yeah.
But you are going on that process with them. Is that something that is part of your artist joy?
Yeah, for me it is. Yeah, I can understand that not everybody can do this. Art is very personal. It's my soul and my heart is in all of my sculptures. So you reveal it. And I let people in the most vulnerable place in my life, which is my workplace. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's okay. I love to see those people come over and see what I'm doing and being amazed and being taken into the whole process. That's what I love to do. So I decided that I can and will do that.
I know that Ramon has made a very special worksheet of these 4 steps. At the end of the podcast, we'll be sharing where you can access these steps when you're working on commissions, make it an extra special experience for those people that are interacting with your art. So thank you for that, Ramon. We'll share a little bit more about that at the end of the episode.
You're welcome.
And how wonderful that you could put all your marketing and sales experience and combine it with your artistry so that you really have a good balance and good, you have both the connection, the communication, and also the creative process. So I think that's very, very valuable information for the people listening or looking at this episode.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, do you have a story of a commission, like a favorite commission that you've done, a client you really loved working with, that sort of encapsulates what you've just been saying?
Yeah, well, actually, I think I have two. One is I made the urn of my late uncle, which died 2 or 3 years ago. My aunt asked me if I wanted to make it. Well, that's the biggest honor you can get. It was also the most difficult one to make, but the reward is amazing. It was a beautiful sculpture. We sit down and ask, what do you love? What do you like? And well, they love these orchid flowers. Somehow I took an orchid flower for her as just like a gift, but it all came together. And then suddenly she said, well, your uncle draw an orchid for our wedding card. So just give it to me. I will just have a look at it and maybe I can make it in 3D. And then we discussed about how many flowers you want and what would it represent. So they want to have like 7 flowers, like grandma, grandpa, and the 5 grandchildren, and some leaves and roots underneath it. And that all would be on a branch of bronze. In there's the ash of my uncle.
No, it's a beautiful example, very touching.
Yeah. And for me, and the other example is which I made recently, which is a bronze sculpture with marble wings. You can find it on my Instagram. I will post it coming week, I think, which is a person who wants to represent his freedom. So we sat down and talked about the sculpture. You want to have like an Icarus figure. So I made a small model. I always make a small model in 3D. That's the best way to talk about an assignment for me. And then we discussed, and then I said, well, I can make the wings out of marble. And he thought that, well, that's a great idea. So we started on the whole thing. During the process, I sent him some pictures and some movies of the whole process. He came around. Now it's on the wall. It's hanging there. It's a great piece, and I will bring it to my customer next week, I think. And what I always try to do is to get into the head of my customer. So what they really have in their minds. The beauty of being an artist is that if you take a picture, you always take a picture of things as they are, but you can create anything you want, anything, because there's no limit in creating. So if there's something in the mind of your customer, you just have to get it out, and then you make the sculpture.
Wow, that's a beautiful process, actually being able to visualize what someone is feeling or going through the inside and actually give it some form, structure, shape, color.
Yeah.
That's very special.
Yes, it is. It's always a big thing if you do the unveiling and you see the tears or the happiness or the amazement, or that's the best thing ever.
I know you also work for international clients. How does a commission at a distance, or do you have also ready-made work that people can buy or purchase something from a collection that you already have?
Sometimes it's something I have in my collection and somebody sees it, or they found it on the internet or something like that. I just make it and send it. But if it's a commission, we can do it by pictures, and we can do it by talking about Zoom or something like that. But the most of the assignments which I did for other countries, I just visited the people. So I made 2 sculptures for somebody in London. The first one was an assignment. The second one was one I just made and sold. Well, I just visit them. As long as it's possible, you can do it. It's a great experience. And then we discussed the sculpture, and then I go back to the Netherlands and I made a sculpture, and I just took them through the whole process. And then I delivered it. I just went to London on a train, because if you go by plane and you take a sculpture of 60 kilos, you won't get any far.
No.
But in a train, you can take it with you.
These possibilities, now also with video calls and with Zooming, and you really can invite people into your spaces also.
For sure.
And if you had to make like your favorite sculpture, like a Ramon, Schalkx, what would you make for yourself? What is your style? What do you love to make?
Firstly, I started off with abstract sculptures. Was one of my favorite sculptures I made 17 years ago. I won a prize with that sculpture, which is affinity sign which runs around itself twice. So it's completely loose, and you you can't see where it's fixed. So it's not, it's actually one shape. I made it in soapstone. So that's one of my favorites. You can also find it on my Instagram. It's an Azure-like sculpture. The second one is actually very figurative. I made it last year. That's one of the first sculptures I wanted to make. I saw a picture many years ago of an old spear fisherman who was 80 years old. It's a story about a spear fisherman who's still fishing in the ocean, and he only takes what he needs and only gets what he needs from the sea. So he's in really great harmony of the sea. The story and the picture made a big impression on me, so I just had to make it. I just had to make the sculpture, which is not on my Instagram yet, but I will post it.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
I will post it somewhere in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
But that's also one thing I want. I love to make. Just see something which really makes a big impression on me and just make it. Dancing people, swimming people, with muscles and strength and layers. I love it.
So it's something that really touches you, inspires you, and then you bring it out and put that into soapstone. You work in marble, you work in bronze.
Yeah, diabas. I work in all sorts of materials. Yeah, and I'm combining them now. So I'm combining bronze with marble. So that these two worlds of abstract and figurative are coming together.
And you say you self-taught.
Yes.
Have you found like there's a limitation because you haven't had that sort of like academic or classical education? Have you found that there's been a limitation, you're missing out, or has it been an asset to just to find your own way?
For me, it's an asset because I don't know the limits of the material. So artistically, I just go start and I just learning by doing. So yes, it will break sometimes, and I broke some beautiful sculptures in the past. But on the other hand, I also made sculptures which most people think they're impossible to make, or think, well, the material is not suitable. Or so for me, it's very positive to not know all the limitations of the material, so I can always go on. For me, the sky is the limit.
And you are a working artist. This is something that you earn a living with. You're on the process of making it really a full time. What do you love about having this as a profession?
Well, if you look at sculpting, what I love about sculpting, I just get into the flow somehow. So if I start sculpting, that for me is the greatest relaxation in the world. And the fact that it's my work now is even better. It gives me energy. It doesn't take any energy. So maybe I get a little bit tired of all the heavy stones and things like that. But if people see my work, the reaction on it, crying or being very happy or amazed, or I don't know, that's a really great extra part of doing this special thing of sculpting.
And then what do you least like about being a working artist? Despite
the fact that it's very important for your business, I particularly not like the financial and administrative matters. So all the things apart from sculpting. So you have to have your administration ready. You have to do, of course, your taxes and all that sort of stuff. So all the time I have to spend on that is, for me, cost a lot of energy, which I wanted to spend on making sculptures.
Yeah. So how do you find that balance? Because I think a lot of artists struggle with that. They need to do their marketing. They need to get their Insta posts out there. They need to write that newsletter, or however they're communicating, the taxes, the administration, the communicating. And then you want to get back into your studio, but the one needs the other. How do you balance that also with your family life and with everything that's happening?
Yeah, that's a very difficult thing. And that's also a challenge for me. It took me half a year to get all the basics in place. And you have to think of giving some things out of hand. So who's making your website? Yes, that will cost you money. But on the other hand, you earn money by making sculptures. And that's the same for your finance. I have an accountant who does all the finance for me. So all the taxes and things. And yes, it will cost me money. But on the other hand, I have time to sculpt. But still, I'm still struggling. And I think that if you start the business, then it will be like 50-50 or something. And then if everything is in place, then slowly and steady, you will get more time for your creation, for time in your studio. And on the other hand, I think it's also really important, if you look at marketing, if you look at sales and things like that, that you put time in that, because that's part of the deal. If you want to be an artist and successfully sell your art, then you just have to spend time in that sales and marketing process, which can also be very much fun, because you get feedback and you see people, and from one thing comes another thing, and somehow you just roll into stuff. And at one point, people will take over some of that work for you, because you earn more, because you sell more. So it's always find the balance between putting some time in sales marketing, putting some time in your studio. And I think in the start it will be very much time marketing and sales, and less time in studio. And the more you earn, the more you can spend on the things you don't like to do.
Yeah, and outsource.
And outsource stuff. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. So you mentioned that you are on Instagram. Have you sort of chosen sort of platforms? You say your customers are everywhere. You can have your story ready, your visibility. You have your card. You're communicating about your art, what's possible.
Yeah.
What channels are you using, and what you finding is working for you as a sculptor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I started Instagram in September last year, actually. It's really a nice platform to find people and galleries. So there was one gallery who found me by Instagram, who asked me to come to art fair in Paris. So that's one thing, which is why it's important. And you can easily show your work. Facebook is not really working for me yet, so I'm not paying too much attention to that, but that's something personal. And what I found out, but I have, of course, 15 years of corporate life behind me, that LinkedIn is working pretty well for me. So if I post something on LinkedIn, the reactions and the sales I get out of that is better than Instagram, for instance.
Interesting. Why do you think that is? Or do you work in a corporate space more, your assignments, or are they just decision makers, or it's just appealing? Why do you think that is working for you, and what could other artists learn from that? Because I know many artists are active on LinkedIn.
So first of all, there are not very much artists active on LinkedIn. But I think there are the decision makers, people with big careers, people who can spend money, but also businesses who want to have sculptures within their offices. That's one thing why I think LinkedIn is working. The other thing for LinkedIn is that if you look at LinkedIn, most of the time it's always about business, marketing, sales, and how good all the businesses are. But if you do just something different, and not every week, not every time, but something that everybody's like, that's something, what? He's sculpting, and
it's like a breath of fresh air.
Exactly. It's like the Friday art afternoon moment.
Drinks.
Raymond dropped something new.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing, I think, with LinkedIn. Because of there's not very much artists there, and because there's not very much art, but there's still very many people there who want to see art and enjoy art and want to buy art. And if you look at, for instance, Instagram, there are millions and millions and millions of people on Instagram. There are millions of artists on Instagram. And you're just one little dot of the whole, and there are a lot of people watching LinkedIn, but not using it as a sales channel. On the other hand, I know some artists who are selling through Instagram very well. For me, it's an important channel. It's not really gaining any sales or something.
Are you doing daily posting? Are you doing video? What's your content look like? And what tip could you give?
Yeah, if you look at Instagram, the videos work better than pictures, of course. I try to post something every week or twice a week. I see the stories are working better than the post that you put in your feed, of course. And which is also very important, don't grow your Instagram followers too fast. Let it grow by itself. Many people on Instagram want to have thousands of followers in the first weeks. And yes, you can have that. But if you buy your followers, you get into a wrong bucket. So the followers you are buying are not your customers, are not your ambassadors. Let it go and post your things, follow people you want to follow, follow galleries, follow other artists, and then slowly you will get into the right place. So if I look at my Instagram and my followers and the things I see on Instagram, I'm in a small community now with artists, galleries, art lovers, art buyers. And if you say, well, I just want to have 10,000 followers with me, well, you can call a company to do that for you. And then you have like 10,000 followers. And Instagram looks at those followers and sees, well, this is an interesting group. I will just post all your stuff in this sort of groups. And suddenly you're lost and you won't get out of it.
Oh, that's a good tip. It's not about the quantity of followers, it's the quality.
Really,
and once again, relationship. And isn't that just the clue of marketing and sales? It's all about relating and sharing, and connecting with the right people. What drives you to make your art? What motivates you to get up in the morning and go to your studio to make your art?
Well, all my life, it's a natural urge to make and create stuff. When I was like a kid or when I was at the company I worked, I was always during these long talks, I was always making things with my hand. So there's something in my body which always says you have to create. And I love it. I get my inspiration from beautiful shapes, inspiring stories or images which I see around me. Beautiful shapes can also be like eating a cookie. And then I look at the cookie and I go, that's an interesting shape. And then I'll make a sculpture out of it. Somehow. For example, dancing people, which have so much power. I didn't look at ballet very much, but last years I did. And then you see these amazing power, amazing muscles, amazing elegance, and extremely hard work. And I just love to capture these motions and these dancing people in bronze. I don't know why, but I just love it. And you can find some of these on my Instagram. Or on my website. And sometimes I just stand in my workplace on my own, sharing and being very happy because things just work out. If I make an abstract sculpture which has all holes in it and which is really thin and fragile, but if it worked out and it's there, then that's amazing.
You're dancing. Then you're dancing around your studio.
Yeah, I'm really dancing in my studio. It's always a challenge to make the impossible.
Finding the edges.
Yes. I didn't have any training, so I don't know what can go wrong. Of course now I know, but well, you can find the edges. The edges of some of the materials are really far. So don't be afraid to get into there.
Can you just name a few artists or an artist that really is an influence that inspires you?
Well, first of all, a couple of old artists that I admire, like Auguste Rodin. I can walk around the Rodin Museum for weeks to look at all his sculptures, but also Camille Claudel, which is his wife. If you see her sculptures, I sometimes think they're even more layered and more, there's so much power in those sculptures you cannot imagine. If you see it, it's beautiful. But also masters like Constantin Brancusi, Alexander Galder, Henry Moore, M.C. Escher, of course, which is a Dutch artist. They were all ahead of their time. They were all not listening to the status quo and just try and do something different. Those are some of the many artists of the old masters I like. And for current days, there are some people who come in mind, like, I hope I pronounce it right, Matteo Pugliese. He's an Italian artist, which I've seen like 12 or 15 years ago. He makes powerful bronze men who come out of the walls, but he also does completely different stuff, and that's what I like, because I make figurative and abstract, which are completely different, and he also makes completely different things. So he makes these men coming out of the wall, he makes bugs which are really colorful and shiny, and he makes kind of guards, which are these Chinese big fat statues standing there with weapons and guards. It's amazing. It's three completely different things.
Yeah.
But there's also a person, which is a Dutch artist, Tom Klaassen. He makes these large, playful outdoor sculptures. He makes the most outdoor sculptures in the Netherlands, actually. Or Peter de Metz. He makes wooden sculptures who are looking into mirrors or standing in water and hanging on the wall. It's really amazing what he makes. But also recently I started following Steve Winterberg. This guy makes animal sculptures, really beautiful, really elegant. And it's not only the way he makes his sculptures, but it's also the way he thinks of living an artist's life, doing what you like and stuff like that, what really inspire me.
Great. We'll put all those in the notes so people can go and be inspired. Why, in your opinion, is art important for our world, for our spaces? What's your view on that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think the role of art goes back like thousands of years. They found in Australia wall paintings which are 17,500 years old. And they give us, somehow they just wanted to put those paintings on the walls. And nowadays they give us a view of how they lived. Yeah, sometimes a representation of reality, worship, commemoration, as they call it. The role of artists is, in my opinion, much greater than many people realize. In my view, art is not only for experience, but it returns daily in everyone's lives. Everything around us is designed by an artist in one or another way. If you look at a car, if you look at a chair, all the lines which is actually came out of somebody's mind. So that's why I think it's very important. Everybody who's looking at the sculpture sees a sculpture. If you look at a text, it's always in a language, and then you can translate it or not. But a sculpture or painting or ceramics are international language. So it gives you a feeling. What I noticed when I was in my career, my work like 15 years, that artists are able to find really creative solutions for problems. So I think companies should listen and work more with artists, especially these days with all the COVID and all the stuff. You just listen to artists and ask them what you do, and somehow they just seem to think different about problems and have very creative solutions for stuff. So I think it's really important, and I think that most people don't realize that.
Thank you for that affirming and just validating artists, because yes, it's so important. We need more artists definitely where there are problems and decisions to be made to give a fresh perspective on things.
Yeah, sure.
And which brings me to my next question. What would your advice be for someone wanting to pursue an artistic career?
Yeah, of course, I would say go for it. My parents always helped me with everything. So they supported me in all choices I made, still making. Mm-hmm. But I just think go for it. Art is not just painting or just dancing or just it's much wider than that. And if you are a creative creator, just go for it. Ditch all the people around you who are just saying, well, it's too difficult, you shouldn't be doing that, or whatever. It's not true. You can just go to the school and try to get some extra lessons in commercial side of being an artist. That's what I would recommend everybody, but just go for it.
And then what advice would you give the 20-year-old version of Ramon? If you look back, would you do things differently? Would you make different choices?
That was a really breaking point in my life when I was 20, when I was rejected by the art school at that moment. And I just thought, well, okay, I'm not going to make anything anymore. So I didn't do anything for 3.5 years. But don't get fooled by that sort of things. If you have a dream, just follow that dream. It will come true somewhere. So if I would have done it the same way again, I probably would have gone to other art schools or to the 3D Design Academy in Eindhoven and try to follow my dream more than I did. It's not a waste of time, these 15 years. They gave me a lot, and they gave me a lot of opportunities. I would advise him to just follow your dream and go for it.
And do you have like a quote or like something, a life motto or something that you have hanging in your studio that you live by?
Yeah, it's hanging in our house, actually. It's a painting of my favorite, the London Police. And there's of course this lad, and they painted all kind of sentences around it. And one of them is, what better time than now? So why waiting? Just go for it. Just do it. So that's actually something I always have in mind. What better time than now? Just go for it. Just do it. Don't wait. Life's too short. So have fun.
And even in a pandemic or in this COVID dilemma that we're in?
Yeah, sure. There are a lot of opportunities. As we were talking about companies who should listen to creative people. If you look around you, there are some restaurants are really having a hard time. There are some restaurants who are having the best time of their life. And that's because they are creative and try to find different ways to sell and do stuff. Yes, of course, I didn't like that the affordable art fair didn't go, and that art fair in Paris postponed to the later this year. But on the other hand, it gave me a lot of time to make new sculptures, and people are not going on a holiday. People are not spending their money on eating outdoors. They're at home a lot. They want to change their home. They want to decorate their home. They want to buy more art. They want to buy more sculptures. They want to buy more paintings. That's a big chance. The only problem is, how do you get to those people? Well, by using Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever.
Enough opportunities. You just need to see them and seize them and not wait for tomorrow.
No. Just do it now. Yeah.
If people want to follow you, know more about you, where can people find you?
Yeah, I have my website. It's www.ramonschalkx.com. And of course, if you look me up on Instagram, there I will share my stories and my sculptures.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me for this episode. I wish you all the best with your wonderful profession and your career, making the world more beautiful.
Thank you very much. It was an honor.
Yeah, what a pleasure. What a pleasure.
I love how Ramon goes on a journey with his clients, including them in the creative process every step of the way, and how he's using his years of experience in sales and marketing to win and complete successful art commissions. As promised, Ramon has prepared a special worksheet for artists looking to work on commissions. In this valuable document, Ramon explains the 4 steps that you can use to turn those often nerve-wracking commissions into memorable occasions. Head over to my website to download this special free worksheet. Go to www.sonjasmallhere.com/commission. Well, that's all for this week. Join me again next time for another episode of the Help I'm Artist podcast. And if you don't want to miss an episode, then you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to this episode. And please leave a review, as this means the world to me and will make the podcast more visible and easier for other artists to find it. Thanks for that. Have an amazing week, and I look forward to connecting with you next time. Until then.